We do know the importance of the games for those further down the depth chart. That includes backup Malik Willis. He didn't get to play in the preseason last year with the Packers because he didn't get traded from Tennessee until the games were over. And while he filled in very well for an injured Love a couple of weeks to begin the year, Coach Matt LaFleur said he's still a young quarterback that needs reps in live action.
I just want him to play the position. And obviously he's got a lot of things that are tough to coach in regards to he can make off-schedule plays, and his legs are an asset to him. So you can't forget about that, and you got to be mindful of that. So I don't want to make him a robot back there and saying, hey, I have to stay in the pocket. I think there's a lot of feel that goes into that position.
Again, the Packers going to host the Jets on Saturday night. Turning to the Badgers, they will hold their second to last practice down in Platteville tomorrow morning. Then they'll hold a practice open to fans on Saturday night, the final time they're going to be on the field down there before coming back to Madison. Their season opener against Miami of Ohio 3 weeks from today.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
All business owners want the same thing, to make their business succeed. At Rural Mutual, they help that happen. As the third largest writer of commercial business in Wisconsin, they take the time to learn your business so they can properly protect you. Call your local agent today or visit ruralmutual.com.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers are off today after finishing off a sweep of Atlanta last night. Milwaukee became the first team to 70 wins. They also lead the majors with 34 road victories. They'll open a series against the Mets tomorrow night at American Family Field. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Yeah, the whole point of the Brewers' success is the collective. In the words of Connor Dawson, it's 9 versus 1, 9 batters versus 1 pitcher. And the reason why this offense works so well is because you're guaranteed to get a good at-bat. And there's a variety of ways to get to a good at-bat. There's the obvious ones. Hit a home run, right? Hit a double, change the scoreboard. But then there's the 8-pitch battle. Maybe you ultimately ground out, or you move a guy over, or maybe even you do damage, you hit a sacrifice fly on the first pitch. That's still a quality at-bat. You change the scoreboard. So every single guy in the lineup understands that maybe they don't have the loudest, biggest, incredible tools that every other team would be looking for. But when you put them all up, stack them up collectively, that's exactly what he's talking about when Murph talks about being disciplined.
I'm proud of the guys. They find ways, they keep going, keep the pressure on somebody else every night. I guess Collins is every night. Perk was incredible today. He always comes up big for us. Sal.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Really good stuff from Dom Catronio yesterday. If you missed that interview, well, look, I gave you 2 more opportunities filling in for Bill today to hear it. You can find it in the podcast as well. But I'd recommend that you go listen. Excellent stuff from Dom last night. And all of the things that we talked about and all the things that I've been talking about all week also applied last night. So the Brewers won their 6th straight. And I'm not going to complain, right? I'm a Brewers fan. All they do is keep winning. Can I complain as a talk show? No, I'd still rather the team keep winning. It's just I can only come in here so many days in a row, especially doing this show and Bill's show, and be like, hey, the Brewers are good, and here's why. We're seeing it every single night. I'm not exactly breaking new ground with some of my Brewers commentary, because for the last 3 months, there hasn't been any new ground to break, which is great for us as Brewers fans, and I think the general vibe of the talk show. New stories, and we're waiting on that. As they get a little healthier, that'll certainly become part of the talk show. But business as usual for the Brewers last night. So everything we said last night, just apply it to tonight as well. It's still truth. The Brewers keep winning. I don't think they'll ever lose again. Now a winning streak of 6 games. And I don't know if you saw the stat. It was floating around and I shared it earlier today. But the Brewers are the first team in Major League Baseball history to have a road trip of any length in which they didn't lose a game, scored 50-plus runs, and committed no errors. And that no errors thing, it just further goes to show how this Brewers team wins, right? And I don't mean to sound like I'm going overboard praising them. It's just that the way in which they're winning games is almost as much a character or a personality trait as much as it is a style of baseball, like discipline, focus, and intensity. Don't we wish all of our teams had that? And the Brewers do, but it's also like that's the crux of their play style, as you just heard Dom from last night's show kind of described. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. I hope you are having an excellent night. The Brewers are off tonight. I don't know what we're going to do with ourselves without 3 hours of watching our baseball team win, but we'll find something. And I believe there's some preseason football on tonight. I think the Colts play too, which means we get Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson content. If I was checking the schedule correctly, we can look forward to that this evening. I always look forward to preseason football in which there's a good quarterback battle, or at least like a fun backup quarterback. Like the Hall of Fame game, was that last Thursday already? Like Trey Lance starting and playing in a preseason game on national TV. That's about as good as we're going to get, folks. Like you need to have a low bar for preseason games that aren't your teams and then enjoy what you can. Trey Lance, or in tonight's instance with the Colts, like Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, that's the good stuff. So that's what we're looking forward to tonight. A bit of a loaded show tonight for the second night in a row. Mike Clemens is going to be here live at 5:30 with some of the latest sounds from inside the Packers locker room and from Matt LaFleur earlier today, another practice in the books. I want to give you some news or a storyline that I think is significant that we started touching on last night with Peter Bukowski, which I guess we actually touched on yesterday with Bill because that's when I had Pete on. You are going to hear two interviews that I did on Bill's show earlier today. One is Jesse Temple, who's normally on the show anyway. So I'm doing a twofer with Jesse this week. He did Bill's show earlier today. You're going to hear that tonight. That's not anything different. Jesse normally does Wednesdays. Okay, so this week he's doing Thursday. We got the latest from Platteville, and I actually snuck in a question with Jesse about looking forward to week one. I asked him for an initial read or initial thought or take on week one, which is 3 weeks from tonight. The Badgers will open up at Camp Randall against Miami, Ohio. So I did sneak a question in on that. So we're just getting close enough to these games to actually talk them out of a bit and to taste it just a bit. You'll hear that conversation at 4:30. And then at 5, Sam Bruchhaus, Sumer Sports, who's one of my favorite football guests, who isn't immediately, Packers adjacent. He covers the league as a whole for Sumer, really, really sharp and with former playing experience as well. So we talked about some of the big offseason storylines, the NFC North, and then some of these contract situations. Micah Parsons, Terry McLaurin, Kyron Williams, who just got extended. I asked him about Zach Tom, who the Packers extended as well. So you'll hear that at 5 o'clock, which will take us into Mike Clemens. Like I said, I wish I had a novel, unique, a fresh Brewers take to lead the show. They keep winning, and they keep winning in mostly the same way. I do think there were a couple important moments that are worth mentioning in last night's game. And I was listening on the radio, so that colors my experience a little bit in what I remember and what I take away from a game. I find that if I listen on the radio, I pick up different things versus watching on TV. Then I notice something a little bit different here or there. The Brewers went 1-2-3 in the top of the first. Quintana has some traffic and then gives up a run in the bottom of the first. And then the Brewers make a couple of outs in the top of the second. And it kind of started to feel like the Brewers were going to drop the finale against Atlanta. Not that that would have been the end of the world. They had just swept the Nationals. They had already won 2 of 3 against Atlanta. You take a 5-1 road trip if you can get it going into the bye, right? Like there's no shame in that. As much as we all want the Brewers to win every night, it started to feel in the top of the second like, maybe this is the game where the Brewers falter, at least for a game. Who knows how then they bounce back against the Mets. But maybe it felt like tonight isn't the night. And Grindle and Maurer on the radio broadcast started to talk about Spencer Strider in a way that's like, he's got it tonight. His slider has movement. He's locating his fastball. He can put all the pitches where he wants to put them. Like, he's got it going tonight. So the Brewers are really, really, really going to have to make sure that they limit the damage from the Braves offense and just hope you get this thing to the 6th, get it to the 7th, get into the Braves bullpen, because it's just not going to be your night against Spencer Strider, right? And then in the top of the second, they have 2 straight doubles. They tie it up 1-1, and it kind of feels like, all right, here we go. Now this is the Brewers we're used to. Andrew Vaughn hits a homer in the 4th, and it's 2-1, and then they hang a 3 spot in the top of the 5th, and it's like, oh yeah, here are the Brewers. We're used to this, right? Following the same kind of recipe, following the same exact thing that they've been, I mean, really not just for the last 6 games on this road trip, going back to the trade deadline last week, the last week, calendar week, I suppose, but really going back to late May, like, yep, this is a team we're used to. And it felt like, at least for 2 minutes in time last night, listening to the radio broadcast, that it wasn't going to happen. Like, oh, Strider's got it. You caught a stud starter on their night. It's just not going to happen. And then Spencer Strider doesn't get out of the 5th. He gives up 11 hits. And the Brewers should have scored more last night. There's all these conversations, at least on Twitter, from mostly Cubs fans or baseball fans that look at what the Brewers are doing and they think, well, I mean, look at all the luck, the batted ball luck, opposing infielders, missing throws or booting the ball around, or Jurickson Profar, I think it was the other night, ran it on a liner to left and overran it, goes over his head to the wall. You just see those things from the Brewers, and it seems to happen for the Brewers more often than not. I think all reasonable baseball fans understand if you put the ball in play a ton, the other team just has more opportunities to make a mistake, and the Brewers put the ball in play a ton. So part of that is baked in, and you could certainly, pick games where the Brewers got a little lucky. Of course, you could pick games where they got a little unlucky. I actually think in the event of last night, the Braves were lucky the Brewers only scored 5 runs. They were thrown out on the bases at least twice, if I'm misremembering a third time, but then there was another. So I remember at least 2 times they got thrown out. I think there might have been one more. And then there was another instance where Isaac Collins leaves early against a lefty. The throw goes to first, and who would have been playing first? Is it Matt Olson? Matt Olson just can't get the ball out of his glove. So Isaac Collins slides into second. So the Brewers were kind of a nightmare on the base paths. There were a couple of innings where they stacked up hits, but it didn't lead to any runs. And it felt like one more hit or a double that, bounces off the wall a different way. Maybe they're able to score. I actually think 5 runs on what ultimately ended up being, 14 hits last night. The Braves were actually lucky that game was as close as it was at the end, and it ended up being a 1-run game. I tip my cap to Trevor McGill because he goes immediately after the first 2 hitters, and then with 2 outs and nobody on, he grooved a fastball straight down the pipe to Michael Harris, but if my closer is going to get himself into trouble, I want it happening like that. I want it to happen because the closer is throwing 100+ and going after a guy with 2 outs and a 2-run lead. What's the worst thing that can happen? He hits a solo shot, you still have a 1-run lead, and then you can go get the next guy, and he did, right? So McGill last night doesn't bother me at all. If my closer gets himself into trouble or gives up a run, I want it to happen like that. I don't want it to be because, you kind of soft toss around a guy, you put a guy on base with a walk, and McGill gave up a run, but if my closer is going to give up a run, I want it to look like that. I want it to look exactly like that. Something that's also worth mentioning, I complain about Bryce Terang a good amount. I complain about everybody. Like last night I was watching with 2 friends for the last couple innings. Game was on FS1. And I'm just complaining about Quintana. I'm like, I got to watch this effing guy. And they're like, he's been pretty good, man. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's just, I find a way to get frustrated by everybody. Our friend Dom Catronio was on the show yesterday, tweeted last night, and I bookmarked it because it shocked the hell out of me. Bryce Terang has actually been excellent with runners in scoring position. Dom tweeted last night, did you know Bryce Terang is 4th in the majors in batting with runners in scoring position at 354? He's in 354 with runners in scoring position. Doesn't feel like it. Or maybe it does, and maybe I'm just blind to it. I don't know. It could totally be the case. I just think there's players on this Brewers offense, there's players on this Brewers team that probably, despite all the winning and despite their, being the first team in the majors to hit 70 wins, probably deserve a little bit more credit than, even shows like this have given them. So hat tip to the Brewers for winning their 6th straight last night. A quick Packers storyline that I just think is worth mentioning before we take our first break and before we take some phone calls. So Dontayvian Wicks missed practice again today. He's got a calf. And I saw a tweet from Matt Schneidman. This is at 11:30 during practice. Says Dontayvian Wicks seems down in the dumps today since he's missing another practice with a calf injury. I say that because Romeo Doubs just walked up to Wicks with a big smile, gave him a hug, and said he needs Wicks to smile. 2 things to take away from this. Number 1, it's just a continuation of how I feel about Romeo Doubs and the season that I believe he's about to have. I think he's going to be their best wide receiver. I think he's going to ball out and probably earn himself a contract somewhere else. That's where I would bet on this thing going. I think he's going to be great. He has all the motivation to be motivated and locked in and playing his best and being more vocal as a guy in year 4. Like if I'm about to give a player like Romeo Doubs, 4 years, $45 million or something like that, not superstar receiver money, but a nice solid investment in a wide receiver 2 to pair with a guy who's maybe young and cheap. I want him to not necessarily be the most vocal leader on the field, but I can't have him be mute. I can't have him be a complete and total shrinking violet. I need something. So, and I think the Packers need something from him this year. Or Romeo Doubs realizes, hey, I got to be my best and I got to give a little bit more this year because I'm playing for a contract. And last year was a little bit of an up and down season for him. I think he had some games where he was great, and then he dealt with concussions, and then he got suspended for a game because of we don't need to relitigate what happened. We've gone over that a million times, and we don't all agree on how we should remember or categorize or whatever word you want to use. We have mixed feelings on that, so I'll set that to the side. Doubs knows that this year it would be incredibly beneficial for him to play his best, be healthy, be engaged, and ball out. for the success of the Packers, but also for his, continued success in his career. So put the Romeo Doubs part to the side. That's one takeaway of Match Diamond saying, yeah, he's got a big smile. He's coming over and he's, getting Dontayvian Wicks kind of back in the flow of things. That's great. I also am thinking about Dontayvian Wicks' role on this team. Do you remember I played this for you last night? This is Peter Bukowski, Locked On Packers, talking about Wicks' role, or I guess lack thereof, in training camp so far, even before he got injured.
The other part of this, Grant, and I've been tracking this, and maybe I'm a sicko,
Probably.
but they have opened team practice, so the team portion, like the 11-on-11s, in heavy personnel. So 12 personnel with two tight ends, or 21 with 2 running backs. So 2 receivers on the field. Every time they have opened with 2 receivers on the field, Matthew Golden has been one of them. So that tells you he is, at worst, like the 3rd receiver on this team, boundary receiver on the team, probably the 2nd. Now, Dontayvian Wicks has missed some time, so that's part of this too. But we're like a breath away from Dontayvian Wicks getting Wally pipped on the outside of this. Like, I feel like he is in danger here of getting passed on the depth chart by Matthew Golden. And then that's before Christian Watson comes back.
So, by the way, for those who aren't familiar, and I just understood using contextual clues what he meant. If you're not aware of the Wally Pipp reference, Peter tweeted about that again today. So Wally Pipp was the player who was replaced by Lou Garrett. Like, this is 100 years ago, or like 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago. But was he replaced by Lou Gehrig or Mantle or one of the Yankees? I don't know. A more modern and a more applicable comparison would be a football comparison, like Bledsoe or Mikowski, right? In the case of Favre, like a player who was good, solid, but then missed time due to injury. Someone took their spot, never gave it up, right? And the way that the Packers have aligned themselves or aligned their offense, quite literally in training camp so far, has been with Matthew Golden and Romeo Doubs. And then Jaden Reed is that next guy if you're playing 3 wide receivers. And then if you get to 4 wide receivers, okay, well then maybe Dontayvian Wicks is that guy, but Christian Watson is progressing nicely, and the Packers seem really still to believe in him and what he can offer this team. They just drafted Savion Williams, who Mike Clemens gave a glowing report on earlier today. Maybe we'll talk more about that at 5:30. I don't want to speak for Mike. I'm sure he has his own talking points that he wants to share with us, but the receiver room seems to be passing Dontayvian Wicks by at this moment in time, which, by the way, is why you want competition. It makes everybody better. And if you're not on the level, or if you're not able to stay healthy, then you get left behind and you're replaced by somebody who can be on the level and who can stay healthy. So that's professional sports. That's the way that it works. But I thought that, noticing a little bit of the situation at practice, Dontayvian Wicks seeming frustrated, he should be, because it's a bad time to be missing reps, because they just brought in 2 new guys, and this is an organization that preaches competition. So I get it. Your thoughts on that? Your thoughts on the Brewers? Everything is welcome on the other side. Mike Clemens, about 90 minutes away, not even, about a minute or an hour and 15 minutes away, whatever that's, 75 minutes away. 5:35. You get the deal. But I'll take your phone calls next at 608-321-1670.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wicks OUT Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wicks OUT Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
No, I think we're in a good place. I think we've done a lot of really good things and made some pretty cool plays out there in the practice field. I think it gets old going against the defense every single day, and we're ready to go play somebody else and go see some different looks, see some new guys on the other side. So I think that'll be the fun test is once we start getting these preseason games and these joint practices to just be able to see, how we shake up against some other teams. And like I said, just how we go out there and perform against, different looks, things that we haven't been going against every day. So that'll be the test.
As Jordan Love yesterday asked about the state of the offense, how you feel about the offense so far through training camp. And he feels good about it, blah, 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 blah. The thing that jumped out to me is the classic, remark that you hear this time of year. I'm just excited, we're sick of beating up on each other. We're excited to beat up on somebody else, compete against somebody else. That's common, classic, yearly training camp commentary. You could set your watch to it. 608-321-1670. Your thoughts on either the Packers or the Brewers. We're going to hear from Jesse Temple take a little bit of a left turn, left or right. We're going to have a bit of a switch up at 4:35. Jesse Temple's going to be here to talk Badgers. Mike Clemens in a little bit more than an hour. So this is the segment, Brewers, Packers, everything's on the table. 608-321-1670. Let's go Sports Show. Who's this?
This is Chris in Chippewa.
Hey, Chris, what's up?
Not much. Two quick thoughts here. My one thing about the Brewers, I love how keep seeing the social media, the whole power of friendship, like they're a bunch of rabid Care Bears or something. It cracks me up.
It is funny.
And then the other one is it's Packers adjacent. I was thinking about this the other day. I was listening to you either on Bill's or your own show, and the person you were talking to, you guys were talking about how the Packers only went 1-5 in the division.
Yep.
And I realized I've been watching football forever, and I remember when it was imperative that you win your division games to get you into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like division games don't even matter as much as long as you beat up on your out of division scrubs that you play. I wish they would realign the division so that the division games meant more. So it was almost like a 50-50. You played 50% of your games in the season in division and 50% of your games out of division. Anyway, I'll hop off and then listen to your comments.
Thanks, Chris. So that was Bukowski yesterday who talked about that, and I replayed that conversation last night. So I don't know where you heard it, but you had the opportunity to hear it twice if you were so motivated. And listen to it as many times as you want in podcast form. Pete, I didn't vibe with that portion of Pete's interview. Pete was like, I'm sick of hearing about the 1-5 division record. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I care. Okay? First of all, those are your rivals. Oh, Grant, but they're worth the same. Oh, okay, sure. You want to play the games on a spreadsheet? Just sit at home and futz around with your calculator, okay? The games against the Vikings mean more. The games against the Bears mean more. And the games now against the Lions mean more. Those games are important. So whether or not those wins or losses preclude you from making the playoffs, and whether or not those wins or losses give you an opportunity to win a championship. And last year, they didn't directly impede the Packers made the playoffs. They could have beat Philly. You know what I mean? Like, they could have done the thing. That's secondary to me. You beat your rivals. It's important. And Chris, you say you want the division games to mean more. Like, you want that to be a 50% share of the schedule. Well, it's already 6 out of the 17 games. That's not 50%, but I think that's about the biggest percentage possible before you kind of start to throw the whole thing out of whack. Like, what do you want to play the Vikings 3 times? Or do you want to shorten the schedule? You'd have to do one or the other, and I think both are unfeasible. I don't want fewer games, and 2 games against each division opponent is fine for me. I'm not in agreement with Pete about those games not mattering. I thought that was a bad take by him. Of course, it's his perspective and it's his point of view. It's just not one that I hold. So we'll agree to disagree there. I just, you go 1-5 in your division. Who cares? It doesn't matter. You made the playoffs. Yeah. It was 1-5. You got swept by two of your rivals, the Vikings and the Lions. And you would have gotten swept by the Bears. It's not for a fingertip. Yeah, but the Bears were lucky to win that game at Lambeau. The Packers were lucky to win that game at Soldier Field. Whatever. Both those teams got what they deserved. I've said this 100 times. The Packers deserved to win the game at Lambeau. The Bears deserved to win the game in Chicago. Just some weird, fluky stuff. Carl Brooks blocking a field goal, I think, is less fluky than Matt LaFleur having a seizure and calling a timeout for no reason. But whatever. I think both of those teams got what they deserved. I think the division games matter a lot. Those are important to me. And if they go 1-5 in the division this year, I don't know how many phone calls I'm going to get between this show and Bill's show of people saying Matt LaFleur can't beat Kevin O'Connell, can't beat Dan Campbell. Why is he still the coach of the Packers? And while I think that will be a bit dramatic, I won't disagree with the overall premise. You can't get swept. They haven't beat the Lions at home since 2021. Now, to the Lions' credit, they've been good. But come on, man. And I know they went up to US Bank and beat Jaron Hall a couple of years ago. But you can't get swept by the Vikings. You can't get swept by the Bears. It can't happen. Now, there's still plenty of wild card spots. And I like that wild card spots allow for elite teams who are in elite divisions to still get into the playoffs and have a shot. I think it's important. I want the playoff picture in both conferences to be representative of the best teams. And I want those best teams to all have a shot to win a championship. Okay? I still want the Packers to win their division. That's not something that is meaningless to me. Kind of the same way that Peter said it was meaningless to him yesterday. And I feel like most Packers fans are on my side, and Chris and Chipway, your side as well. I think the division schedule is already a huge portion of their schedule. So you either have to play teams 3 times, which I'm against, or you need to shorten the schedule, which I'm against and will never happen because that's a huge amount of money. The league's looking at expanding the schedule, not shrinking. So it's one of those 2 avenues, and I think both are unfeasible. Let's take one more call here, and then we'll, the caller dropped off. Call back. You know the number. I'll get you on. Coach Freed text in. Says, hey, Grant, it's Coach Freed. I've had a few Red Dogs, and I'm having severe Brewers withdrawals. I'm enjoying this incredible season, and I couldn't give a hoot about preseason football. But I'm curious to hear if you think this team can sustain success instead of crumbling when the lights turn bright. Well, those are 2 different things. They've sustained success, and I think I said this yesterday or the day before. It has been sustained. It's been since late May. So whether or not they can sustain this, that's been decided. Whether or not they're going to crumble when the lights are brightest, I do have a little bit, and I wanted to bring this up with Dom yesterday, and I'm kind of saving this. We'll do this in a month. We'll do this in a month when the regular season standings are about settled and it's clear that the Brewers are going to be in the playoffs and what that looks like. We can have a real conversation about whether or not this offensive style works against the most elite pitching. You know what I mean? The Brewers have built their lineup of a team of batters, of a lineup of guys who don't strike out, and that's how this works. Are those same hitters able to put the bat to the ball with the same, level of efficiency and effectiveness against only the good pitchers? Like when you're seeing, I don't know, Ranger Suarez, Christopher Sanchez, and Aaron Nola or Zach Wheeler. You're seeing those 3 pitchers in Philly, and then you're getting a diet of relievers like, Juan Duran from Minnesota who can all throw 101. Like, can you still put the bat to the ball? Or does your bat to ball skills, deteriorate just to the level where it doesn't really work as well? Coach, I'm with you. Your text says crumbling when the lights turn bright. I think that's what we're dealing with here. And I wouldn't put it past Pat Murphy to sit down with his team before any playoff games and be like, hey guys, you know what I would do if I was Pat Murphy? Put it this way. I would create a reel of footage last year of players not fielding their position, Yoel Payams, of pitchers not making pitches when the moment is biggest, Devin Williams. I'd create a montage, and I'd look all these guys in the eye and say, look, guys, you can win 95 games. We can keep getting into the playoffs and keep crossing our fingers and hope that one of these years it's going to be our year. But at some point, you guys are going to have to make it your year. Like, are you going to go out and execute when it means most? And when the plays need to be made and when we need to be buttoned up and dialed in, are you capable of doing it or not? Because it's kind of on you at this point. The players. The Brewers have built a system and developed pitching and come up with a strategy that works. And while I don't think this team is as deep as many say, it's It's a deep roster with great starting pitching, with a great bullpen, and with hitters who have obviously all shown that they can do it. And I think at some point, Pat Murphy before a playoff game just needs to go, are you guys men or are you a bunch of mice? Like, is this going to happen or should I just make plans? Because I don't even think it's on Pat Murphy. I think when you get to October, the front office, the manager's done their job. Are you guys going to go out and make the plays necessary to win playoff series and to contend for a World Series? Because that's what it's about. And to your point and to your text, coach, like I don't think that that's something that can be decided or established in August or September. That's something that is established game one when the game starts, first pitch in the playoffs. Are you guys built for it or not? And in the past, I just don't think they've been built for it. And that's a players executing and bringing it at the most important moment thing. That's not a Pat Murphy thing. That's not a Brewers play style thing. That's on them to go out and make those plays. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Jesse Temple, Badger Connect, is going to join us to talk about the latest from Platteville and to look ahead. 3 weeks tonight, the Badgers will open their season at home with Miami of Ohio. And I even got Jesse to look forward a couple of weeks and to talk about that game and to talk about our hopes and dreams and what's on our list to see in that game. So that's coming up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wicks OUT Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wicks OUT Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the final hour of the Bill Michaels Show. Bill is out in Sturgis. He will be back Monday. You just have to put up with me one more hour today and then the show tomorrow, which will be a lot of Packers talk as we get ready for Saturday's preseason game. I know Mike Clemens will pick some of his favorite sound bites of the week. I always look forward to that. We haven't gotten into college football yet today, and perfect because Jesse Temple, who we missed last week, is here. Badger Connect. Jesse, before we get into actually talking about what you've seen at Platteville and the things that you're writing and talking about on the camp with Zach, can you remind us again, Badger Connect is relatively new the last couple of months, where people can find your work and subscribe to your work and exactly what you're offering?
Sure. BadgerConnect.com. Pretty easy peasy there. But yeah, I've been there for a few months, was at The Athletic for the last 7 years. And the subscription is a couple different tiers, but content only. You get everything that I'm writing, with the videos that I'm hosting, $10 a month or $100 a year. And then there is a higher tier above that where you can also get the content. But in addition to that, you can pick which sport your funds go to at Wisconsin, and you get entered into at least 10 giveaways for that sport every single month. And there are some pretty cool giveaways, including for football, for example, tickets to the Iowa game, autographed Billy Edwards merchandise, Badger Connect gear. You can get time watching a practice with your buddies. So that's $35 a month. That's $350 for the year. But everything can be found at BadgerConnect.com.
Can I watch practice with you and Zach? Is that something that's on the table? I think I'd enjoy that. I don't think either of you would enjoy it, but I know I would have a good time. Is there a way that I can get into the running for that giveaway maybe next year?
If you're willing to sign up for an even higher tier, I think I can make that happen.
Excellent. So I've been asking you, like, which players are jumping out at camp, right? And we've talked about those names, you and Zach on this week's latest episode of the camp, talking about running backs. We're getting to the point now where I'm curious, how are these standout players starting to coalesce and fit together? So in what ways have you seen certain players who have impressed kind of find a niche or a role in the offense in a way that you can start to visualize going into actual games?
I think starting with the running backs makes a lot of sense. We had a chance earlier today up in Platteville to talk to the running backs, as well as running back coach Devin Spalding. I got to tell you this, we've certainly been spoiled to watch some incredible running backs at Wisconsin. And so I'm not going to compare any guys that Wisconsin has in the room to those people. It wouldn't be fair to them. But I will say I have been so impressed by Dylan Jones, who is a redshirt freshman this year. I didn't know what his role was going to be going into spring ball, because I just assumed Darian Dupree was going to be the guy, since he ended up being the number 2 last year as a true freshman. Well, Darian got hurt for a little bit in spring. Dylan ended up getting a lot of the 1 carries. And right now, to me, he looks like your starter in week 1. That's not to say that Dupree isn't going to have a big role, in Cade Giacomelli as well. But my goodness, Grant, Jones is just so strong. If he gets into the second level, he can either knock you back or outrun you. He had a 74-yard touchdown run today. He had a few other huge gains, and there was a play yesterday that he made where he caught a ball out of the backfield, turned upfield, and knocked the defensive back on his butt. So it's been really impressive to watch him. And, of course, if you're going to say a running back's doing well, you got to put some credit on the offensive line. So I would say that is something that has stood out here in week 2.
So you have a story out earlier this week about the O-line group and the coaches that work with them really getting back to roots. I was reading earlier today that they've been watching tape of old Rose Bowl games, which is really cool. And honestly, like a good way to get your players excited. I think this team and this program needs a little bit of excitement. And I think the scheme change gives them something to wrap their arms around and visualizing, like, this is what we could be capable of and this is what we're shooting for. So talk about some of the things that they're doing in that room to kind of emphasize the old way of Wisconsin football?
I think understanding the history, especially offensive line at Wisconsin, makes a lot of sense. And not everybody has to do that. When we're talking about the 2010 or 2011 Rose Bowl teams, these guys were what? 6 years old, 4 years old, whatever. Yep. But when I was talking to Joe Brunner about this, they apparently met as a group and watched some of this film. And what he found interesting, he's a Whitefish Bay guy. He grew up idolizing these guys, so it's a little different for him. But he said, I watched the film, and it's not necessarily like those dudes who are all amazing or pancaking defenders all the time. He talked about this concept of strain to finish, which has been a talking point all offseason for O-line coach A.J. Blazek. And he said, you have guys 15 yards down the field blocking, and then all of a sudden they pop one for a 60-yard touchdown run. So it's like this idea of not letting up on a play, and this all may sound cliche or eye-rolling, but there is something to be said for having the right mentality in addition to the skill level of the scheme, and all of that has to come together to form a really cohesive and top-level unit. So getting back to that physicality, and I'll say this too, Joe Brunner, when he came off the field after practice on Wednesday, the quintessential O-lineman at Wisconsin guy, he had strips of tape on the bridge of his nose. There was dried blood in his nostrils. He had a helmet pop off in the middle of a play, and rather than stop, he kept going and then took a face mask to the nose until he was on his way to get stitches, but he stopped to talk to us. So you want to talk about some old school play? I'd say Joe Brunner fits the mold.
So tell us more about that strain to finish mantra that I've seen you writing about, and you and Zach have talked about it on the camp too.
Well, I think it's just the idea of playing with more physicality right from the start and understanding that having more of an aggressive nature is going to pay dividends. I will say this offense, as I've been saying since the spring, it just makes so much more sense for what Wisconsin has been and what it ought to be given the players that it brings in, especially on the offensive line. And I know they did a good job of recruiting offensive line these last couple of years in terms of star ratings and getting talent that was versatile and could move. But you need to be able to blow people off the ball. And you can do that in this kind of offense. So I know that the offensive linemen are very excited about it. And AJ Blazek talked about it too, like the competitive drive, the physicality, the will to finish. He feels like you can see the difference. And he didn't specifically reference the offense last year or Phil Longo, but he said, like, you get to do what you enjoy doing as an O-lineman. And he said, I get it. Pass protection is great. You got to work on that stuff. We're going to throw the ball, but you like running the football. And so you want to build an offense around the strength of your O-line.
Jesse Temple is here, Badger Connect, and you should absolutely listen to him and Zach on the camp. There's no better coverage of what's going on at Badgers practice down in Platteville, and there are only so many of these practices left, so make sure you take advantage of all the information and the things that they're sharing. Is Vinny Anthony now as a senior a player that, one, Billy Edwards Jr. can rely on in big moments? And is that a player that Badger fans are going to be able to wrap our arms around watching this team saying, that's a guy that I trust, that's a name who I'm going to hear that name called every week. That's a guy who's a stable, consistent performer.
Yeah, I certainly think so. Look at the numbers he put up a year ago as the team's leading receiver, and he's coming back. And I also would say this, sometimes it can be hard in this era to root for an individual player, especially when they come in and they're on their third school and they're here for 6 months. And that's no knock on guys who come to Wisconsin and want to be a part of the culture. Billy Edwards Jr., for example, is on another school, but he's bought in from day one. Vinny Anthony, he could have looked at this and said, this program is not headed the direction I want. I put up big numbers. I'm going to go somewhere else. Well, he's still here. He loves Madison. He's got a dog and a fiance. Like, he just loves being here and being a part of this program and wants to help them get to another level. So I think those are the types of individuals you can root for. But on the field, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is your clear-cut, one of your starters on the outside. And the question to me is the rest of the group, because you need people to complement him. Otherwise, you're just going to bracket him and make them throw to other dudes. And so you need some versatility. And I think they have that with that top group, which also includes Tretch Kekahuna and James Ballard.
So this is probably an unfair question to you, but we're just close enough to the season where I feel like I can get away with asking you this. They're 3 weeks away from Miami of Ohio. It'll be 3 weeks from tonight in Madison. If you were to make a list today of things that you were most excited to watch for, like, I want to see how this plays out in a real game, what would be at the top of that list for you right now?
I have to start with the offense. Maybe that's because it's sexier than defense, but can they ground and pound? Can they air it out when they need to off some of that play action and just be dominant? We have not seen dominance from Wisconsin football in so long, other than an occasional moment. And certainly we haven't seen it in season openers in the Luke Fickell era. So dominant offensively, and then defensively, can you establish yourself in the trenches and be more physical, much like offensively? They put a lot of work into changing things defensively. So we'll see whether they can implement it and be effective in week one.
I think that'll go a long way as far as one heavily tilted home non-conference game can go, mauling a lesser team, physically dominating them and hanging a crooked number on the scoreboard, that will do as much as one game could possibly do for the fan base and I think for the program. And like you said, it hasn't been that way the last 2 years. They've won these games against non-conference opponents for the most part, but they've never, I've never watched saying, hell yeah, we haven't really got that. So I think in the broadest strokes, that's what I'm looking forward to as well. Is there anything that we should watch for at Badger Connect or anything that you and Zach are doing on the camp that we should watch for the next couple weeks as we get ready for the season?
Well, I'm working on a story as we speak on that running back room since we had a chance to talk to them. And we do run these Badger Bites videos every Wednesday. We had one last Wednesday with Joe Thomas and Riley Mallman in the film room. We've got another film room episode with a wide receiver we may have already discussed and a former Badger who played the position that I think people are really going to like. So you can catch it all at BadgerConnect.com.
Looking forward to it all. We're getting close, Jesse. Thank you for the time as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Grant. Talk soon.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
You look at their pitching has been their foundation throughout, the last 5-10 years. And now they have offense as well. They have Jackson Churio, Christian Yelich, Isaac Collins, Sal Frelick is there. They have, so many young pieces on that team who are just emerging and playing really good, as I said, fundamental baseball. And their bullpen is very good as well, even after trading Devin Williams, even after trading Josh Hader a couple years ago. And they added Shelby Miller at the trade deadline. And that was one that actually I was able to drop about 25 or so minutes after the trade deadline, and they only gave up a player to be named later or cash in the deal. And it felt like a classic Brewers move. Well, actually, maybe not classic Brewers move because they added salary in Jordan Montgomery, but an under the radar arm, even when that wasn't the most pressing need for him. He's going to be debuting in the next couple of days. I think it was a great move by Milwaukee, and it strengthened what was already a really good unit for them. So I think they have all the ingredients, especially on defense as well, to just be a force in the postseason.
That's Robert Murray, old friend of the Brewers beat, was on foul territory earlier today. I cut that because, anytime somebody in the national media praises the Brewers, I know people like that. Well, when will they get recognition? I'm telling you guys, every day, every single day, someone in the national media compliments the Brewers. They're getting their due. I also cut that because I almost spit out my drink listening to him list players on the offense.
They have Jackson Chourio, Christian Yelich, Isaac Collins.
That's the third name. That's the third name. Well, this offense is just so good. They have Jackson Chourio and Christian Yelich and Isaac Collins. Like, I guess, yeah, he probably is the third name right now.
Isaac Collins.
It's a funny piece of sound. Sam Bruchhaus at the top of the hour, but we got 10 minutes here to take calls in the meantime. So if you have something to say it now, because we got two guests in the last hour. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Loaded show.
Cone!
Thursday night.
Yeah, it is pretty great. Well, when I'm doing Bill and this show, I gotta slide around interview. I gotta buy myself a little time because if I talk for 2 straight hours, I'll run out of gas. I know myself. I don't have 2 hours of things to say after already doing it for 4 hours. So I gotta help myself a little bit.
Hey, respect to you. I tip the cap. Can't be easy doing 6 hours of solo radio every day, especially in the summer. Obviously with Jesse coming on, I love the Brewers. I'm so excited for the Packer season. Badger football, that.
I think, and I'm glad that Jesse kind of said this at the end of our conversation, like they need to beat the brakes off of Miami, Ohio. They don't need to upset Ohio State and beat Iowa and beat them. Like they don't need to win 8 or 9 games just to wake the fan base up and to get them even excited about hoping for upsets like that. They need to beat the absolute balls off of Middle Tennessee and Miami, Ohio. Like, can we all agree on that? Like, if they do that, I think all of us will go, okay, let's see if we can have a season now. But if those non-conference games look like they've looked the last couple of years, I think a lot of Badgers fans, they won't quit before the season is started, but they're already going into the season with 1 foot out already. You know what I mean, Cone?
Oh, 100%. And we'll have to play this back, but just listen to ourselves. We need to beat Miami, Ohio. When in our lifetimes have we ever had those expectations going into a Badger football season?
Yeah.
It's depressing.
It is.
I think the university should start charging less for tuition because their football team's so trash.
It should. Well, Cone, you're a traveler for work. You probably get this. Everything is dynamically priced now. Why should tuition be any different? If the football team's going to suck and the job placement, another thing, when did job placement get so hard? I remember when I was in high school trying to decide which college to go to, and colleges would go, we can guarantee you a job the day you graduate. Like colleges used to do that for you. And I feel like that went away. So why don't we dynamically price education like everything else? I'm with you on this.
I think we're getting onto something here. I like it. But I don't know. I think also these kids got to get off their butt, put down the bong, and go to the career fair.
There is
wear
that.
A suit, wear a tie, go to the career fair. Write up a resume. I mean, it's not that hard.
There is all these kids now, they just ask ChatGPT to do it for them. So, which is a real thing. I thought ChatGPT was kind of funny and I made a picture of Mike Clemens in AI because we had that song for him. But I'm sorry, if you're someone who's using that stuff multiple times a day, I don't know. First we had the pandemic, the kids who were in school during the pandemic, and that presented challenges. And the kids, I think, were they were victims of that on some level. Now these kids go through school and they can just look up, answers to things on ChatGPT.
Yeah, I don't envy our educators that have to put together curriculum to combat, AI. But wow, we really got off topic here.
I don't know. You're the only caller, so we're not waiting on anyone. I did before your call is done. I want to ask you about, you were in Edmonton and I saw you tweeting about Canada. I don't know if you'd ever been there before or what, but your tweet made it seem like you didn't enjoy your time up there. So I kind of wanted to ask about that. But if you have a Brewers or a Packers thing, we can do that first.
No, I'll give a quick, 60 seconds on Canada. Beautiful place, really. Like, utmost respect for the hardworking Canadians. Feel bad. I mean, gas is about $5 a gallon when you go through all the conversion. The Canadian dollar is going to shit or crap. Sorry.
I didn't even notice.
And I just feel bad for the hardworking Canadians. And, Edmonton, that's a big blue collar city, a lot of, oil and gas. And those guys are out on their rigs, busting their butts, 12-hour days, 7 days a week. And what do they get for it? $5 gallons of gas? It's ridiculous.
Well, there's no Chat GPT out in the oil fields to help them. How long is the flight? Because I know you're somewhere around Phoenix. How long is the flight from Sky Harbor to Edmonton? Because that's up there, man.
I connected in Calgary, so 3 hours to Calgary, about 45 minutes to Edmonton.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not too bad. Well, I appreciate it, Cone. Is there anything else? Any other topics we should discuss before I let you go?
I think I missed when you did this segment or show the other day, but starters playing preseason is a must, in my opinion. Packers have a lot to prove this year. And if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And the only way to get better, in my opinion, is to see some live reps.
Yeah.
I mean, all I've heard is they're sick of hitting each other in practice. Well, Lucas Van Ness, let's see what you got first round pick.
Yeah, go get by someone that's not Jordan Morgan at left tackle. Let's start there.
Thank you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I like that a lot. Cone, I appreciate it. I'm going to get to one more caller here. I like when Cone, because Cone, unless he's traveling, is mostly an everyday caller. I do enjoy when it's been a while because it's like, oh, we have all these things to catch up on. One more call here, and then we're going to get to Sam Bruchhaus after the top of the hour. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. Tom in Oak Creek. How are you?
I am excellent, Tom. How about you?
I'm doing well. One stat from this Brewers run that I found amazing, you may have brought it up already, is that they were 24-6 on the road during this 60-game stretch. That is unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think it fits their personality. Murph might have talked about that last night or the night before. He was like, well, I don't know if there's anything to it, but I think these guys enjoy the challenge. Like, they embrace the challenge. I don't know if it's fluky or what it is, but it seems to fit the ethos of this team.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I guess a question I have your thoughts on are, do you think the Brewers are going to try to potentially stop stealing so much in the playoffs? I know there's been a lot of back and forth about the caught stealing. And obviously the running game is a big part of their offense and what has made them successful. But they do lead the league in caught stealing. I wonder if in the playoffs, as outs become more precious, if they consider backing down a bit.
So I don't know about that. And I thought about that last night, Tom. I appreciate it. I just want to get to one more here. We got about a minute. They need to stop trying to steal so much because they're not good at it. I'll get to this on the other side of the hour, but quick. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Denny from Holman.
Denny, what's going on?
How you doing, sir?
I'm excellent. We got about 60 seconds. Sorry to rush you.
No problem. I didn't know if you saw the stat that I had that the Brewers had the most runs in the National League in the games, the last home stand or the away stand, and they actually had the most hits as far and the wins without errors in the National League.
Yes.
I mean, that's unreal. Huh?
And I think, it fits this team. And sorry, Denny, I got to run because I do actually have to get to break. I love that you called it an away stand. Yes, on the 6-game road trip, it's the first time in MLB history that a team went undefeated on a road trip, I think scored 50 or more runs and didn't commit any errors. So that's the stat that you're away stand. That's elite. I'll give you a couple of thoughts on that, Denny, and then I want to talk about Tom's call about stealing, and then we're going to get to Sam Bruchhaus. Just 2 minutes. We'll get an update from Zach. The show will keep going 2 minutes. No need to tune it out. We'll be right back.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers were already without one starter in their secondary this preseason when Nate Hobbs underwent knee surgery and is expected to miss a few weeks. Now they're without Pro Bowl safety Xavier McKinney. He did not practice today due to a calf injury. He said it had been something that had been lingering, and he doesn't expect to play in any of the 3 exhibition games. However, he also doesn't expect to miss any regular season games.
I think it's some of both. Like I said, I'm just kind of going with the plan. Obviously, glad that kind of we caught it when we caught it. So just kind of trying to take it slow. And then the build up, obviously. But I'll be ready when when it's time to go, for sure.
McKinney was not the only new addition to the injury list. Wide receiver Jaden Reed and center Elton Jenkins also did not practice today due to injuries. Practice was actually the shortest of training camp so far as the team gets ready for their preseason opener on Saturday night against the Jets. Turning to Wisconsin, they practiced today down in Platteville. Another big day for running back Dylan Jones. Broke off a 70-plus yard touchdown and had another big run as well as he tries to stake his claim to the number one job. Badgers will hold a practice open to fans on Saturday night down in Platteville.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
All business owners want the same thing, to make their business succeed. At Rural Mutual, they help that happen. As the third largest writer of commercial business in Wisconsin, they take the time to learn your business so they can properly protect you. Call your local agent today or visit ruralmutual.com.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers are off today. They'll be back in action tomorrow when the Mets come to town for a weekend series. The Crew, sitting 4 games, cleared the Cubs for first in the NL Central, also the first to 70 wins in Major League Baseball this year. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Yeah, the whole point of the Brewers' success is the collective. In the words of Connor Dawson, it's 9 versus 1, 9 batters versus 1 pitcher. And the reason why this offense works so well is because you're guaranteed to get a good at-bat. And there's a variety of ways to get to a good at-bat. There's the obvious ones: hit a home run, right? Hit a double, change the scoreboard. But then there's the 8-pitch battle. Maybe you ultimately ground out, or you move a guy over, or maybe even you do damage, you hit a sacrifice fly on the first pitch. That's still a quality at-bat. You change the scoreboard. So every single guy in the lineup understands that maybe they don't have the loudest, biggest, incredible tools that every other team would be looking for. But when you put them all up, stack them up collectively, that's exactly what he's talking about when Murph talks about being disciplined.
I'm proud of the guys. They find ways, they keep going, keep the pressure on somebody else every night. I guess Clemens is every night. Perk was incredible today. Yelly always comes up big for us. Sal.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Hour number 2, Mike Clemens in about a half hour. Really good call from Tom in Oak Creek. The Milwaukee Brewers, who have won 6 in a row, he was talking specifically about stealing. I'll just get right into it. No need to set this up. You all heard the call. He was asking, should they peel back on the stolen base attempts? I think so. They're second in the league in steals, but they're like average or worse than average. I looked it up the other day. I can't remember the exact number. The success rate of those steals is quite low. They got thrown out twice last night. Isaac Collins should have been out a third time. But Austin Riley or Matt Olson, I can never remember which one's third and which one's first. Couldn't throw the ball the second, so they got off the hook. I think they missed Quentin Berry. I tweeted last night, I think the Brewers missed Quentin Berry more than they miss Pat Murphy. Craig Counsell. I'm not exaggerating. Because there was one call at the end of the hour that we couldn't get to, I'm going to take this quick, and then we're going to get to Sam Bruchhaus, Sumer Sports, who was on with me on Bill's show earlier. He is outstanding. It's a great conversation. You won't want to miss it. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hi, Grant. This is Tweeter.
Hey, Tweeter, what's going on? You're not golfing today?
I am not today. I decided it was laundry day tonight. I got a big weekend of golf ahead of me, so I need all my best fits, ready and pressed for me to go this weekend.
Good for you.
I've had a thought for the last, I'd say, 18 hours. I just can't get it out of my mind. Do you think we've seen the last of Garrett Mitchell in a Brewers uniform?
Yeah, Tweeter, I kind of felt that way when he got hurt the last time. Like when his season was over, like the Brewers could, he's set to reach arbitration, and I don't know. I mean, he's got to have played just about the fewest games ever for a player that's going to reach arbitration. You know what I mean? But with Churio in one spot, Collins is seeming like the guy in the other, and I don't think Sal Frelick's going anywhere anytime soon. I want my rotational outfielders to be available. You can't be a backup outfielder and never be available. So, yeah, I think it's at least a 50% shot that we have seen the last of Garrett Mitchell, and I don't think that's crazy to say.
I mean, I completely agree. People just kept saying that Isaac Collins and Perkins are both 28, which makes a good point, but also Garrett Mitchell's about to turn 27 within the next week. and he's only played 141 games through 4 big league seasons, or parts of big league seasons, I would say.
Well, and part of my problem with Garrett Mitchell is when he's played, he's had nice moments, but most of the time that he's played, he hasn't been all that good. He strikes out way too much. He's got holes in his swing. So it'd be one thing, Tweeter, if it's like, oh, if he could only be healthy, he would be like a 3 or 4 hitter in this lineup, but that's not the case.
I completely agree. I'm glad that somebody is also sensible on this topic. I've heard a lot of people just defending him blindly, and I think a lot of it has to do with that wild card home run and the fact that he's a first-round pick. But with the arbitration coming up, like you mentioned, it's just going to be hard to pull the trigger unless he just demands such a low number that we can justify it.
And I don't even know economically, Tweeter, I appreciate the call. I don't even know economically how it works. I've put that on the back burner. He's good looking too. I mean, are we going to pretend like that doesn't factor into how we view him? What, are we just going to ignore that? I don't think we can ignore that. We're just going to pretend that doesn't matter. It totally does. Sam Bruchhaus, Super Sports, joined me on Bill's show earlier today. Great NFL conversation, things going around training camp, contract holdouts, extensions, and the NFC North. Enjoy. This is about 15 minutes. This is an interview that I really enjoyed from earlier today. Hour number 2, the Bill Michaels Show. Bill is off the rest of the week. He's out in Sturgis. And I was joking with Ebo, who does the morning show, over the line right at 10 o'clock when I took over. It's like, I listen to 4 hours of Bill a day. I know all his Billisms. I know his expressions. I know he gets in and out of breaks. And I would love to just do a show where I try to do everything that Bill does. But I think then then it sounds like I'm making fun of him, and I don't want to do that. How are we looking, though, as Bill would say? We're going to go deeper into the Packers locker room. I wouldn't put it past Mike Clemens to drop by at some point. We'll see. The Green Bay Packers practicing now. We'll hear Matt LaFleur spoke about an hour ago, including some details about this weekend's upcoming game. They host the Jets. It sounds like a lot of starters are going to play. Don't know how long or for what purpose or for what intensity, but it looks like some are going to play. Joining us now, Sam Bruchhaus of Sumer Sports. Always a pleasure to have him on and have him be part of the show. Sam, the season is almost here. That's got to feel good for someone who works in the football space. This has to be the best time of year for you.
I'm super excited. I got in an argument with my co-host of the Sumer Sports Show, which you can find anywhere you listen to podcasts. I got an argument with Lindsay Rhodes because she was like, I'm just not excited for Trey Lance in the Hall of Fame game. And I was very excited for Trey Lance in the Hall of Fame game. So I'm super duper excited for some preseason football. I know we've talked Shador quite a bit. I'm excited to see him start. And there's all kinds of interesting stuff that should be happening this weekend.
I'd argue that Trey Lance is about as good as you can do in the Hall of Fame game. I
100% agree.
Like, if there's ever a reason to watch that game other than Tirico and Collinsworth, like, Trey Lance is about as good as you can do. I think the NFC North, let's start with the division that a lot of people think is one of the most competitive in football. We'll see how the wins and losses shake out, but a lot of talent, some good coaches, previous success. There's preseason reasons to watch these teams. We want to see JJ McCarthy or Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. It sounds like some Packers are going to play. So let's start big picture with the NFC North, your thoughts on the division and its outlook, and then maybe we can zoom in on some individual parts.
There's no doubt that this is an extremely talented division. And there's no doubt that there's at least 3 pretty top to bottom good rosters. I think that people are wildly overrating 2 things. The first is that JJ McCarthy is just going to be a good quarterback, and that the Vikings offense is going to be a good offense, because when you really go and look at the metrics last year, they were not a good offense. They were an average offense.
Okay.
And I think that's a real misunderstanding that people have and associate with KOC. And KOC has done an absolutely awesome job coaching that offense. I mean, you think of the quarterbacks they've had. He turned Kirk Cousins into a guy who could make as much money as he now is making. He turned Sam Darnold into a guy who's now making $30+ million. And he made Josh Dobbs relevant for weeks and several other guys relevant for weeks. So, like, I get that he can drag an offense behind the strength of his coaching, but rookie quarterbacks just typically are not that good. And that's what JJ McCarthy technically is this year. And I think people are really overrating their ability to be better than an average offense. And then the Bears, I think people are really overrating a first-time head coach in Ben Johnson, which I think is fine. But I think they're really overrating the quality of their roster. When you really boil it down, they added Joe Thuney, and that's it.
That's the only piece that you believe will be a substantial value add.
Correct. That's the only item that you can really trust to be an upgrade. Drew Dahlman, I think you could call an upgrade, but that's at the center position. There's a lot of changes. He's going into a new scheme. Who knows if he'll be calling the protections or Caleb will be calling the protections. There's all kinds of stuff there. And then Jonah Jackson did not play for the Rams last year. Literally couldn't crack the field. People are expecting him to be borderline Pro Bowler in a Lions uniform, which he was 2 years ago, when the dude went to Sean McVay and literally could not step on the field for him. And I think when you really boil it down to that, it's tough to believe that they're going to be markedly better, which even the win total has them being markedly better, considering that, Caleb took a ton of sacks last year. And there's a lot of change on the offense. And I just don't know how much better they got.
My take on Detroit, when people ask, well, they lost Ben Johnson. How do you think that impacts them? Well, I think the culture in Detroit will remain.
Yeah.
I still think what makes them will still be there. My take on where they could take a step back without really becoming that much better or worse of a team. I just watched the Lions so many times last year win games because of 2 or 3 fourth downs that they executed. And in a lot of those fourth downs, I'm like, oh God, Ben Johnson just had the perfect call. And they did it to the Packers multiple times. And if you take away just a couple of those plays over the course of a season, you could have a Lions team that's still very good and got healthier, but you win a couple fewer games just because they're insane on fourth down. And I don't know how Ben Johnson's absence specifically impacts that part of the Lions thing,
So I think people really underrate Dan Campbell's fingerprints all over this team. I think a lot of the things that they wanted to do was as a result of Dan Campbell wanting it and Brad Holmes putting the guys in the position of what Dan Campbell wanted. I also want to bring up that there was 3 or 4 games where they scored 50 plus points and just blew teams out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
You can think of the Seahawks game early on in the year. You can think of the San Francisco game later on in the year where the defense couldn't really hold up, but they just scored so many points that they still won by a sizable margin. And I think that's what I'm kind of banking on. I know people have qualms about the losses that they've had at the center and right guard position, but people forget that the Eagles were in the same exact position last year and then all of a sudden have the best offensive line in the league. I'm not overly worried about them replacing those two, especially given that they have 2 Pro Bowl, All-Pro level talents, even though Decker is getting a little older at the left tackle position with Penei Sewell and Decker at the tackle position.
So the Packers added Golden, Belton, and Savion Williams in the draft. I think Golden is probably the player who could make the most impact. God knows if he makes any impact. I don't know. Matt LaFleur now another year seasoned. Packers fans are having questions about him. If it hasn't happened yet, when is it going to happen when you have that run or when you really look like you're dialed in the postseason? And then Jordan Love in year 3 coming back healthy. What is your outlook on the Packers? And they extended Zach Tom this offseason. They moved Elton Jenkins to center. So take your pick on any of those significant additions or storylines and give me your outlook for the Packers.
Yeah, I would be floored if Matt LaFleur at any point is on the hot seat. He's in the class of coaches, I think, which at the top is Mike Tomlin and probably the lower is Mike McDaniel right now. Of if they were to get fired, someone would fire their coach to hire them.
Sure.
And I think that's kind of the case. We kind of saw that with Vrabel and Sean Payton 2 years ago. Sean Payton obviously retired, so a little bit different. But I think the wide receiver position is going to be the real question mark. And I think the rising star on this team will end up being Edgerrin Cooper. I was floored to see Edgerrin Cooper, number 1, not get any votes for the executive poll for best linebacker. And number 2, as we discussed with Brett Coleman and EJ Snyder on the Sumer Sports Show, which you can go subscribe on YouTube and check this out. And we have a bunch of cool stuff. He's like a 79 on Madden. I thought he was like an all-pro level player in the 14 games he played last year. So I don't really know what's going on with that. But I think an ascendant young defense alongside, some wide receivers that you're taking a ton of shots on. They have a ton of cooks in the kitchen. Hopefully 1 or 2 of them. Jaden Reed maybe ends up finally making the step that we want him to make. I think when it comes down to it, they have a good offensive line. They have a good coach. They have a relatively trustable quarterback, and you just hope the pieces fall in place after that.
Sam Bruchhaus, Sumer Sports is here, and listen to the Sumer Sports Show anywhere you get your podcast, like you said. So a couple of deals that have happened in the last couple of weeks, and then a couple of deals that could happen. So let's talk about Terry McLaurin, right. Micah Parsons, and then any thoughts on, I mentioned Zach Tom to a lesser degree, but Kyron Williams just got an extension in LA. So some of these, in the weeks leading up, some of these moves that teams have made. Give me your thoughts on some of those.
Yeah, so I'll start with Zach Tom and to a lesser degree with Rashawn Slater over there in LA. You just sign tackles.
I agree.
If you have a tackle, you sign them, and you go drink a Miller High Life.
Especially
after
post
and get
rookie
really excited about
extension.
it.
Like if you want to nitpick
Yeah.
when they're after 30, like it's tough to let those guys go. They didn't do that with Bakhtiari and it bit him. That's Zach Tom. I've been saying for months. It's like, this seems easy to me.
Right. Yeah. I don't think the Packers or the Chargers really even thought about this. And they were just like, yeah, pay him what he deserves. I think tackle is the easiest position to do that outside of quarterback, which quarterback obviously has some chagrin. We can kind of pick up within 3 years if tackles are actually good. So those I'm fine with. Let's move on to Kyren. I think I'm building a rule that if your running back is not a major part of your pass game or they're not Derrick Henry, that you really, really got to think hard about giving out these extensions. Kyren Williams, it's the first time I've ever seen an APY be deflated. Like typically, you say this player signed a $30 million deal and it's to make him look good and you go into the guarantees and it's not actually that. You look at his APY and he's like kind of a mid-tier starting running back. You look at his actual guarantees and it seems like they're expecting him to be the offensive player of the year. Like he has $23 million guaranteed. Henry and Christian McCaffrey have 26. And then Saquon is way up at 36 million guaranteed. All three of those deals, obviously veteran players, were 2 years. Kyren's is 3 years, 22, 23 guaranteed. If you just look at it as a 2-year, 23 million guaranteed, I just don't understand how the math makes sense. The guy is not an offensive player of the year candidate, or at least has not been. I'd be glad to eat my words and say, congratulations, you got your money's worth. If he does do it this year, I think they have an excellent situation for him. I just don't know, where those dollars are coming from, especially given they've drafted Jarquez Hunter. They have Blake Quorum back there. They've been bit by this before with Todd Gurley, and it's just an interesting deal. That's really all I can say.
My team paid Josh Jacobs, which I think we're just seeing how much they leaned on him last year. And this happens a lot where it's like, well, he didn't catch a lot of passes at his last spot, but we believe he can do it, right? Like that factors into the decision-making and the contracts for some of these guys.
Yeah, but even his guarantee is way lower than Kyren, which is like, that's the real crux of it, because I think these running back deals are legitimately 1+1+1 or +1 deals. Like, you're evaluating running backs on a year-to-year basis.
Your take on the situation with both Parsons and McLaurin?
Parsons, I think there's collusion to like boost podcast and marketing numbers. I mean, like anytime anyone asks me about this or texts me about it, and it's like, what's going on in Dallas, man? There's weird news. They're saying crazy stuff. I'm just like, $42 million.
Yeah.
Like as soon as that's offered, it's probably going to get taken because he deserves to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league, and he's going to take it. So I think that there's like shenanigans to like boost numbers going on right now. And maybe there's not a conspiracy there, but that's the conspiracy I believe in.
Maybe they're just doing that unintentionally. Maybe they're just doing it for the love of the game and there's no like business podcast interest.
Yeah, but maybe not. But like it's such an easy thing. You can fight it as long as you want. Just give him the $42 million. Terry McLaurin is an interesting one because you look at basically all of the statistics that he has also last year and in years prior. And he's like a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. And there's a defined market for those players at his age that was even more defined by Cortland Sutton signing his extension. I think as the Commanders are looking at it, they're like the two players that are your age and are as productive as you, or in the case of Mike Evans, more productive than you, are getting paid a similar amount. And DK Metcalf, who was in his draft class, but is 2 years younger than him, got paid a deal that I don't think much of the league necessarily agrees with. Mm-hmm. And I think when you have that situation, it's very difficult to say, it's not our job to give out deals that we don't like. But I mean, that's a market making deal as well. So I do think it's an interesting back and forth. The reports have been said that he's not necessarily looking for the 33 million, 35 million APY. Again, APY really is not the crux of the cash there.
It's window dressing.
So yeah, he can say that, but then if he wants a bigger guarantee, then that's really what the Commanders care about anyway.
So that's Sam Bruchhaus from earlier. We, chopped it up and made small talk for another minute or two, but I want to stay on schedule some time for your calls on the other side of this break, whether it be on the Brewers or the Packers or whatever else, anything else we've discussed. And then Mike Clemens, we're going to call and have a nice chat with him at 5:35 just to kind of get the latest on what he heard and what he saw up in Green Bay at practices today. So 608-321-1670, you want to join the show? More than happy to have you on the other side of this break. Just give me a call or shoot me a text.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think it's always nice to get a couple preseason snaps just to put yourself back in that, that game mode mentality.
Wisco Sports Show, Mike Clemens in about 10 minutes. Time to take your calls in the meantime, though, if you want to jump in. I know we've been kind of loaded between Jesse Temple and Sam Bruchhaus. Not as much space. Normally, we kind of take some calls for a while at 4:20, take some more calls at 5 o'clock. I know things have been shifted around because I've been filling in for Bill, and I'm loaded to gills with some of these interviews that I want to play for you. But I will take your calls. That's Jordan Love talking about whether or not he wants to play in the preseason.
Snaps just to put yourself back in that, that game mode mentality.
So on the topic of whether or not starters play in the preseason, Cohn called in and talked about this before our 5 o'clock break. We got news this afternoon that the Chargers just lost their left tackle, Rashawn Slater, who blew out his patellar tendon in practice today. Massive injury for a team that feels like they should be ready to compete this year. It's not going to be easy. They're in a division with the Chiefs, division with the Broncos, who are really, really good. And the Raiders, I don't know like that the Raiders will be elite, but I feel pretty confident that their floor will be a lot higher than in the past. That's a tough division. Vagabond John comments, says, how does the Rashawn Slater news impact Tuesday's discourse on starters in the preseason? Now, Vagabond John, what I assume you're getting at here is, are you sure you want guys to play? Look at what happened to Rashawn Slater today. You sure you want that risk? And back up on John, my answer to you is it happened in practice. That could happen to anyone anytime. It happened to David Bakhtiari in a practice in December. So unless nobody's going to practice and nobody's going to play until week 1, I think the lesson learned is this could happen in a walkthrough. It could happen in warm-ups. It could happen anytime to anyone, anywhere. So if you don't want to get hurt, if you don't want to, and look, I'll speak to this personally. I have a broken foot at the moment. I got a walking boot on. Trust me. You want to avoid injury, don't get out of bed in the morning. I mean, I live a fast and loose lifestyle. NFL players, huge linemen, their knee could go. They step awkwardly. It happens. Not just in preseason games. People talk about preseason games like, oh, people get hurt in preseason. People get hurt in every game, and a lot of people get hurt in practice. So, yeah, it would suck to lose a player to injury in the preseason game. But if you think that players should play in those preseason games, don't let an injury to Slater today scare you off. It happened in practice. It could happen to anyone, anytime. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Eric on I-90.
Good evening, Eric.
Good evening, Grant.
How's it going?
How are you?
I am well.
Good. I texted you during Bill's show today when you were playing Jordan Love's interview, and I think I responded back like Jordan Love word salad.
Yeah.
And it's just, listen, he's so monotone. It's like an Applebee's salad. It's just not even very good.
When was the last time you had an Applebee's salad?
I did have one, and then there's a reason I never had another one.
Interesting.
And it's so plain. It's just so nothing special. I'm just saying, I think that you've been leaning this way, Grant.
Mm-hmm.
Even with Lord, it's kind of the same old, same old. It's just, it's the same old, same old.
And to be fair to those two, like, quarterbacks should be boring at the podium, right? Like, I don't want my starting quarterback doing interviews and starting controversies and giving away juicy state secrets. I wish Matt LaFleur would lighten up a little bit, but it's not on him to entertain us. He's a coach. He's up there to fulfill his media obligation. I just want him to loosen up a little bit. I'm worried that he's going to give himself an ulcer.
I just think that your quarterback has got to have a certain amount of personality to be that leader. And I think Jordan Love's lacking that. I do.
Interesting.
It's just an opinion.
No, and that's a fine opinion. I don't know that he lacks charisma in press conferences. He just doesn't say anything interesting. I think he's well-spoken, and his teammates all really like him. I think you're right. You do need a certain level of charisma, but I don't know if the press conference is the end-all, be-all judge of that.
Lack of charisma definition is you don't have anything interesting to say. So he fits it right in. Right?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I like this take.
Other than that, Grant, you have a great vacation.
Yeah, I will be gone. Yes?
I'm always trying to kind of stick a wedge in and see if I can't get some reaction.
Yeah.
Everybody knows I'm a Viking fan.
Of course.
And I haven't even watched my quarterback in a press conference. I haven't even watched him. So I'm just needling now.
I probably wouldn't watch. I appreciate it, Eric. I will have a good vacation. I don't know this to be sure. I think I'm going to leave tomorrow afternoon because I got to drive a couple hours. I got to go to the Twin Cities because that's where I'm flying out of tomorrow. I think I might leave tomorrow afternoon. So if you're hearing this and you're like, Grant, stop leaving early on weekends. Okay, well, I wouldn't be leaving early tomorrow if not for the fact that I'm doing Bill's show. You're coming, speaking to you, the listener, if you enjoy this content, if this is what gets you through the day, and trust me, I'm sympathetic because I have my own shows and things that get me through the day without driving into a median. I'm giving you, you're coming out ahead tomorrow. You're getting 4 hours instead of 2. It's just at a different time. Well, Grant, but then I got to pull up the stream or the podcast. Oh, okay, well, Jesus, do a little something for me as I try to get to my destination to begin my vacation before 11 p.m. Could you just meet me halfway? Find the content from 10 to 2. Save it. You can go watch it on YouTube. You know what I'll do? I normally don't post the podcast when I'm filling in for Bill. I'll post it tomorrow. And you know what? I'll throw a little something on my podcast feed too, so it comes in the normal spot. I will take some of the content from Bill's show and put it in this window tomorrow. I'm going to leave a little bit early. I'm sorry. I wish I didn't have to. I don't feel that bad about it, but trust me, I feel a little something. I do. When I'm not on the air 4 to 6, I'm like, I should be there. But I will enjoy my vacation. Thank you, Eric. Interesting press conference take. I think quarterbacks and coaches should be boring at the podium. I just wish Matt LaFleur would loosen up a little bit. All right, one more call, and then we'll take a break. Get to Mike Clemens. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
You should get the hell out of here. You're on vacation, man.
Thank you, Dave. You know what, Dave?
I mean,
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I mean, these people, I mean, in 4 hours of use is already like a hemorrhoid. We don't need 6 hours.
That's what I'm saying. You're already coming out ahead. You're getting bonus content tomorrow. You're getting more than you normally would.
That's like a double hemorrhoid.
Yeah.
And a lack of charisma. Well, that defines Jism and Eric from I-90. But real quick, I'm heading to La Crosse next week for business. I haven't been to La Crosse since 1984, and I'm going to head down to Howie's for lunch.
Really?
Yep, I haven't missed that. There's a client up there I want to hit up, and I said, I haven't been there since '84. I'm walking down to Lux Hall into the first room I ever was there, then heading down to Howie's and maybe up to the Alpine Inn where I got drunk many a nights up on that mountain.
You're going back to your old stomping grounds.
Yep, so it's going to be kind of sad and excited to see, because it'll be the last time I think health-wise I'll ever be able to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and do it with my driver. We're going to Sparta, and hey, should be a blast, man. But as far as players playing, no, I don't want to see any of my players playing the whole preseason. Cooper, sit your ass on the. You guess what you got practice for. I want none of my linebackers, none of my D linemen. Have all the number twos, because the number twos are going to be needed during the year. Those are the ones that need to play. Sit everybody.
So rookies and second and third stringers, that's what you want?
Yes.
Okay.
That's all it should be playing, because odds are they're the ones who are going to make the difference at the end of the year, because no one's ever stays healthy, and those are the ones that want getting the reps. But
okay.
Other than that, you must be going to Montana, huh? Fly fishing?
Correct. Yes, that is where I'm going. I just need to be able to walk.
I hope a moose poops on your head.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dave. That is appreciated. I appreciate your call. Have fun in La Crosse. It sounds like a blast. I'm jealous. I don't know the next time I'm going to be back there. For sure for Oktoberfest, which is only like a month and a half away, which is nuts. But I appreciate it, Dave. Thank you. Somebody's got to play in the preseason games. You're football players. And if they get hurt, okay, well, then wasn't your year. Sorry, man. Also, I think all rookies should play in the preseason. That's who should play in the preseason is first-year guys. I don't know. Like Matthew Golden's going to play. Savion Williams is going to play. And Marshawn Lloyd, if he's ever healthy enough to play in any football game, he will play in the next available game. Let's take a couple-minute break. We'll come back, and we'll get Mike Clemens for a couple minutes. The latest from what he saw and heard up in Green Bay. He will join us on the other side of this break.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. Wicks OUT Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wicks OUT Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wicks OUT Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wicks OUT Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
No, I think we're in a good place. I think we've done a lot of really good things and made some pretty cool plays out there on the practice field. I think it gets old going against the defense every single day, and we're ready to go play somebody else and go see some different looks, see some new guys on the other side. So I think that'll be the fun test is once we start getting to these preseason games and these joint practices to just be able to see, how we shake up against some other teams. And like I said, just how we go out there and perform against, different looks, things that we haven't been going against every day. So that'll be the test.
That's Jordan Love. He was asked, you excited about the offense and the way that it's looking in camp? And he gave a very political quarterback answer, although you do hear that training camp cliche in there. Now we're just excited to hit somebody else. You hear that a lot. Mike Clemens set to join us here momentarily. The Bay Motel in Green Bay sponsors his appearances on our network, and I told you about them earlier on Bill's show. South Military Avenue, Bay Motel, Green Bay, to make your reservations. I also want to shout out another sponsor, Kai's Chevrolet, Kai's Chevytown in Menominee, right off Interstate 94. They are the official vehicle provider of me, if you will. They also, and I want to inform people, especially up in the Chippewa Valley, if you're looking for something to do on Saturday and you are a car enthusiast, speaking directly to Clem Head Mike here, on Saturday they have their annual Corvette show. It's about, what does the flyer say here? I got it in front of me. I want to make sure I get it right. About 9:30 to 1:30. So late morning to early afternoon. There'll be food trucks, DJ providing some good vibes, no admission, whether you just want to come and look or you want to bring a Corvette of your own. And they're raising money for the local food pantry, Stepping Stones in Menominee as well. So a short drive over from Eau Claire. If you're looking for something to do on Saturday and you're a Corvette enthusiast, you can bring your Corvette or just go take a gander of other folks' sports cars and enjoy some of the food and help them raise money for a good cause. And of course, if you want to buy a car, you can start that process or schedule your service at ChevyTownUSA.com. BYC Kais for the best buys. All right, Mike, another busy day of practice up in Green Bay. We talked a little bit about wide receivers earlier. Dontayvian Wicks didn't practice today. That's opened some doors from some other guys, and you were telling me earlier that some of those guys have stepped through that door and impressed.
Yeah, and speaking of Menominee, hello to Josh from Menominee,
yes,
Wisconsin, who listens at MadCitySportsZone.com to your show and to the Bill Michaels show. Who's on the sidelines, introduced himself. Great conversation. Yeah, I feel better for some reason after today's practice in helmets and shorts, more of a run-through thing, probably because it was also sort of a dress rehearsal for Saturday night's game. So maybe they scripted plays that the guys were a little more familiar with, maybe, a little less thinking going on. The practice started out kind of flat because I look and it's like, okay, where's 74? Where's Elton Jenkins? Oh, he's over there on the side. Veteran Day arrest? No, this back problem that he had that, held up his start of camp, they're giving him a day of rest. And also Xavier McKinney, your star safety, he's now got a calf muscle problem. He says, I'm glad we caught it when we did, but he may be out for maybe the next couple of weeks just to make sure that, that's because a calf muscle can take you down for a couple of months if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And so Jordan Love lines up, and they're just kind of doing a walkthrough and stuff. So he lines up in the shotgun, and the ball from the center comes back, rolling across the ground, like some kind of a, Happy Gilmore movie or something, and I look up and it's Jacob Monk, and I was, oh man. And so, who's standing next to me? Scott Wells.
Oh yeah. You were saying that he's up there today for some NFLPA stuff, Super Bowl champ.
Yeah. He now works for the NFLPA for the players union. And so we had a great discussion. I said, so when we were looking at Sean Ryan, if he was going to be a center or taking snaps at center, and this business of making declarations as the center. And it is pretty simple. You're declaring who's the Mike linebacker, who's the middle linebacker, because as you stand there as center, two guards, and the tackle, and maybe even the tight ends and the running back as well, that wherever the middle linebacker lines up, that sort of determines all the other assignments. And even though, there's still that basic thing like you learn in high school football if you're playing varsity, that if you're in a 3-point stance and you're looking for somebody to block, you block the guy that's over you, either inside, outside, or off the line. Those are the basic rules. But with this, it shifts because this is the NFL, and this is 320-pound men that run stunts, and you have to have tendencies. And so, there's a call that you're making there as the center for a standpoint of saying, if this guy is over here, and then if you look down the line and you see where they lined up off on the left-hand tackle, they've shifted, and there's nobody over the right guard or that kind of thing. That also can tell you, without even looking up, probably where the strong safety is. And, you can even start thinking about, they're probably in cover zero. You can even start determining how the whole defense has shifted just by declaring where the Mike linebackers lined up. And I said, so you did that? He said, yeah, but he said there was times where Aaron might say, where's the Mike? And, if he said 52 and he said, 50, because maybe he sees a stunt,
sure,
then you go by what the quarterback says.
Well, slightly different perspective. He's got a wider view and he's standing up a little taller. Like I would think a quarterback maybe has a different view and a different vantage point.
But whatever. I also, and I said, now Brady used to call out, 52 is the Mike all the time, right? You could see him from the shotgun. The center wasn't doing that. But at the end of the day, Joe Philbin, offensive coordinator, later, a head coach, but always an offensive line guy, always Bill offenses starting from the center on out. He said, look, just make a declaration, because if you hesitate and you don't say, okay, 52 is the Mike, and he's, everybody looks up and he's lining over the left guard. Even if you're off, that's better than hesitating and not saying anything.
Yeah.
Because if you don't declare before you snap the ball, you now have 5 guys trying to think, oh man, what do I do? And he says, at least if you make the declaration, then at least you're all on the same page as to which way you're going to block, and the odds are you're better off. I thought that was an interesting conversation from Scotty Wells.
Well, yeah, and I guess if Elton Jenkins isn't the starting center, I guess one of the most important factors then for either someone like Jacob Monk or Sean Ryan is like confidence becomes pretty important, right? So getting these reps in camp and getting them at least familiar with playing the position is a little bit of a prerequisite. If such a big part of the job is declaring protections and declaring tendencies and stuff, you can't go out there and be unsure of yourself. Otherwise, it's going to screw everybody else up. And I don't really love what we've heard about Monk. Sean Ryan, I think, can do it just fine. But a lot of fans might think, well, just slide someone over to center. It's not that hard. And what you're telling me is there's some more intricacies, and Scott Wells is talking about some of those intricacies than maybe most fans are aware of.
Jordan Morgan, your first round pick from last year, has been getting lots of reps at left tackle. And it's clearly Rasheed Walker, your starting left tackle the last 2 years, who took over for Bakhtiari, and Dontayvian Wicks, your wide receiver. They're getting antsy, having stand there on the sidelines with both their injuries. I mean, Rasheed's dealing with a groin injury. They're seeing their jobs kind of slipping away a little bit.
Yeah.
Although, LaFleur was more candid today to say, though Jordan Morgan's got a lot to learn. So he gets a lot of valuable snaps, with 3 preseason games to go, still pretty early in training camp. That's the good news there. I found this very interesting because this is the big question, of course. It goes round and round. Are you going to play your starters?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to play your starters? And, of course, it almost gets to be superstitious. But this franchise will never forget playing a game in Pittsburgh preseason. Jordy Nelson runs out there in the flats, jumps up to catch a ball that's a little high in the air, comes down just fine, lands 2 feet, but goes and turns, torn ACL. He was never the same.
Yeah.
Never the same.
And neither was the Packers offense until years later.
Yeah. But LaFleur said today, I've got a new study, and it's from the league, and it says the teams that play their starters more, at least week 1, week 2 of the preseason, have a better chance of playing safer through the month of September. And doesn't that make sense? Because there's nothing like actually playing this game.
Yeah.
And getting in there and getting physical and getting in full football shape and getting hit by pads and banged around and guys flying around and guys piling up. And it takes a while for the brain to process that. And you have to get that back, because when the bullets are flying live in September, you're not, it's not so shocking after the first 2 or 3 series. It doesn't take you till halftime, week 2 before, you feel better. So, that might be an argument where you necessarily won't see 30 vets, on the sidelines Saturday night, but, we'll see.
Well, and I think there's multiple ways to do it. 2 of the greatest coaches of my generation, Andy Reid and Bill Belichick, both notoriously played a lot of their guys in preseason games. And then
So
I
did
think
Pete Carroll.
So did Pete Carroll, and it worked for them. I also think the smartest, probably best coach going right now is Sean McVay, who has never done it. Like, he took over and said, no, we're not doing it. I just think whatever your strategy, I think you can play your guys aggressively, or I think you can sit them out completely, but then you need to be, making plans and making decisions based off of that. Right. So I just hope that Matt LaFleur has, all right, we're going to play guys, and because of that, we're going to do ABC, which will make sure that we're prepared week 1. That's all I'm concerned about.
And Matt LaFleur is a Sean McVay, head coach of the Rams.
Yep.
Descendant, essentially. Here's a guy I want you to look for, because, Josh Jacobs, great. He's not going to play. He doesn't have to touch the field. But Emmanuel Wilson, who earned a job behind A.J. Dillon a couple of years ago with, having some great snaps in preseason, one game against the Bengals in particular. He's out with a bruised knee. He thought it was a torn ACL. I mean, how long could that be, right?
Yeah.
He's standing there on the sidelines watching. And then, of course, Marshawn Lloyd. Now, he talked to some reporters. I don't know exactly what he said, because there's other guys I wanted to talk to. But he's still out with a groin injury. I don't see him playing at all Saturday night. So since he couldn't take any snaps today, who's in the running right now for your number 2, number 3 running back? Chris Brooks is back from last year.
Yep.
But the guy I want you to start looking for is number 23, Israel Abanikun. I thought I'd have it.
Something like that. You're closer than me. I barely know anything about the guy.
Abanikuna.
Okay.
His parents are from Nigeria. Very much like Sam Congato from 20 years ago.
That's right.
Grows up in Brooklyn, plays football, gets picked up by Pitt, is a 4th-round pick for the Jets. They're pretty deep at running back with Breece Hall, Braden Allen from Fond du Lac. So then he's in the backfield of the 49ers until they released him just a couple of weeks ago because not only they have running backs, but they've got the fullback and Juszczyk as well. So he looks sharp. So look for 23 Saturday night and what he can do, because it's so funny about running backs, man, because there's only 2 or 3 on these rosters and the rest of them are out there floating around looking for a shot. But I think that guy could be an interesting prospect and maybe push somebody for the number 3 spot at running back. And also he's played a lot of special teams too.
I think the wide receivers we're thinking mostly about are Dobbs, Reed, and Golden. What have you heard?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And Christian Watts when he comes back and all that. The guys you're going to see, though, on Saturday night, particularly when you get into the second half, are these guys that are all in the 80s, like Will Shepard, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm told by some of the guys, you keep your eye on Will Shepard. Julian Hicks is number 81, and Cornelius Johnson is 6'3" and 212. These kids are catching the football. He's out of Michigan. Johnson's out of Michigan.
Well,
I mean,
and you said Savion Williams has been lighting it up recently too, right? That's a name that I'm excited to watch on Saturday night.
3rd-round pick, number 83, over the middle, down the field, and he's tall too and physical. And they're even, putting him in the backfield and running jet sweeps. Savion Williams looks. I mean, you've got 2 good-looking receivers, especially Matthew Golden. Someone that was on this roster last year as a wide receiver is going to be out of a job.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and right now Wicks is on the sideline, probably feeling antsy. He's like, man, I got to get back out there. It's a bad time to be missing reps.
I mean, it is, So we still got 3 preseason games to make full judgments on these things. Are you catching the ball? Are you going to run in good routes?
Yeah.
And, and can you take a physical hit? That'll be the next thing to find out.
Mike, we will chat tomorrow during Bill's show, a little sound, a little recap of the week, and then it's on to, well, not the real games, but the next closest thing on Saturday. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Grant.
Thank you, Mike. Mike Clemens, the Bay Motel in Green Bay, sponsors his appearances. Quiet, cozy, comfortable, less than a mile from Lambeau Field. I mean, shoot, it's right down the road on Military Avenue. So you can go online, baymotelgreenbay.com, and make your reservations. If you want to go to a game this year, I'd get on that because, hotel rooms in Lambeau Field in the fall, or in Lambeau Field in Green Bay, very in demand. So get after that. baymotelgreenbay.com. Give them a call. Ask them any questions you might have. We'll take one final break. We'll come back, wrap up. One final thought on the Brewers before we go our separate ways for the evening. It's a Wisco Sports Show. We'll be done after this.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wicks OUT Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wicks OUT Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Last couple of minutes here, wrapping things up. Appreciate Mike Clemens. You can get more of his coverage with some sound from the locker room and coach's podium. That'll be tomorrow. I believe in the first hour of Bill's show. Go and let me check. I'll check his text. I'll get you that before we wrap up here. But we got a caller on hold. Let's wrap up with that. 608-321-1670. Wicks OUT Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. Coyote Mike.
Hey, Coyote Mike. How's it going?
Bike. Good. I'm riding my bike. It's about 95 degrees. It was just raining for a bit. But I know you got to get going. So
I got a couple minutes.
I'm going to be in lacrosse next week, too.
Oh, you and Dave both? I can't remember when Dave was going, but keep an eye out for him.
Yeah, I don't know. I got to go back for a fundraiser for my sick cousin. So
I'm sorry to hear
that'll
that.
be on Saturday. And but I just wanted a quick comment. Andrew Vaughn.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, I haven't seen the Brewers a lot on TV, listen a lot, but I cannot recall recently seeing a player who looked more formidable and imposing at the plate than him.
Yeah.
He is like a bear trap ready to go, and he plays defense on first base the same way.
Yeah. A bear
He's
trap.
just like
I like that.
spring-loaded.
Well, and he just jumps
So-
on it. I think, he crushed that mistake out for a home run last night. And I think it looks so imposing. And I love the description describing it as a bear trap, because this is the thing. A lot of these Brewers hitters are really good. They don't have a ton of guys in this lineup who can jump a mistake like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to see him just punish Strider for hanging one like that, they need some of those swings every once in a while.
The last thing is, I believe they should be playing in preseason. As long as they're smart about it, they should play almost every game.
Yeah.
And the players should know when they're going to get played. LaFleur seems to be kind of playing this cat and mouse game, at least with the press. Like, well, we'll see. We don't, maybe they'll play some, maybe they won't. It's like, gosh, coach, you're the head coach.
Yeah.
Stand up there and take control and tell them what you're going to do and stand behind it. So anyway, I wanted to wish you a happy vacation in Montana.
I appreciate that, Cody Mike. Yeah, I'll be out your way in the wild, wild west. Sometimes I forget. I'm a big map guy. You know this. Sometimes I forget how much farther south Denver and Colorado is relative to a lot of the west.
Yes, it is. It's too warm for me, in the summertime. But,
Well, enjoy your
green grass.
Enjoy your trip back to lacrosse. I hope everything's okay with your family and your cousin. I'm sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, and you have fun, and we'll see you next time.
We'll talk soon. I'm gonna, listen to the Brewers out there as much as possible. There's nothing better than listening to the Brewers when you don't have to listen to the Brewers. Oh, it's the balls. Are you kidding me? So yeah, enjoy your time out there, or back in lacrosse. I'll go out your way, Coyote Mike. I will be off tomorrow night. I just checked Mike's text. He will be on at 10:25 and 10:30 tomorrow on Bill's show. I will take the best segments from Bill's show tomorrow, which I am hosting, and I will run them tomorrow night from 4 to 6. So no, I will not be on, but it won't be something you've already heard unless you already listen to Bill's show tomorrow. And if you listen to Bill's show tomorrow, that's on you. Like you're getting 4 hours. You're gonna be okay. So I will be gone next week. I'm sure I'll chat with a lot of you tomorrow during Bill's show. You can tell my brain's already scrambled. I need to go on vacation. So have a great night. Enjoy the night off from the Brewers. We'll talk tomorrow at 10. Be there.